The city was broken, covered in smoke and dust, the smell of burning metal still heavy in the air. Buildings stood like skeletons, their walls cracked, their windows shattered, and the streets were silent, as if the world had stopped breathing. Daniel moved carefully through the ruins, his boots crunching on glass and ash. He kept his body low, his ears sharp because silence in this place was never safe. Silence meant danger could be hiding, waiting, watching. Only a few hours ago, this place had been full of noise, explosions, screams, the deep roar of alien machines. Now there was only the sound of the wind moving through the empty streets. Daniel tightened his grip on the small metal rod he carried. It was not a real weapon, not against what had attacked the city, but it gave him comfort. He had been searching for survivors, though deep down he feared he was the last one left. He stopped suddenly. A sound cut through the stillness. It was not loud, not clear, but it was real. A weak cry, broken and soft like someone in pain. Daniel froze, his heart pounding. He looked around, scanning the collapsed walls and piles of rubble. For a moment he thought he had imagined it, then he heard it again. A faint whimper, almost swallowed by the silence. Slowly, he followed the sound. He moved past a broken vehicle, its frame twisted like a toy. His steps were light, careful, every sense alert. He pushed aside a piece of fallen metal and stopped. There, half buried under a pile of debris, was a figure, small, fragile, and glowing faintly in the shadows. It was not human. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The figure was a girl, maybe no older than 16, her skin pale but lined with soft glowing patterns, as if light lived beneath her flesh. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and her body was pressed under heavy steel beams. She opened her eyes when she saw him. They were large, shining with an alien glow, filled with fear, but also pleading. Daniel froze. Every warning he had ever heard about aliens rang in his mind. They were the enemy. They had destroyed cities, killed thousands, brought machines of war to Earth. He should leave her. That was what the soldiers had said. Never trust them. Never help them. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw something different. Not a soldier, not a killer, just a girl, broken and in pain. Her lips moved. She whispered something in a language he could not understand. The sound was soft, weak, almost lost. But the way her hand trembled, reaching toward him, told him enough. She was begging. She did not want to die alone. Daniel's heart raced. He looked around. The streets were empty. No one was watching. No one would ever know if he walked away. But he could not move. His feet felt heavy, his chest tight. Slowly, against every warning, he knelt beside her. The metal beams were heavy, twisted into the ruins of the wall. Daniel pressed his hands against them and pushed. His muscles screamed, his arms shook, but he kept trying. The girl's faint voice gave him strength. With one final effort, he shifted the beam enough to pull her free. She gasped, her body trembling as fresh air filled her lungs. Daniel slid his arms under her and lifted her gently. She weighed less than he expected, almost too light, her body fragile in his hold. But her skin was warm, pulsing faintly with that strange inner glow. For a moment, Daniel stood there, holding her, unsure of what he had just done. He looked down at her face. Her eyes were closing, her head resting weakly against his chest. He should feel fear. Instead, he felt something else, a strange responsibility. A sudden noise broke the stillness, a distant roar, followed by the crackle of energy weapons. Daniel's blood turned cold. The enemy was still nearby. He pressed the girl close, his mind racing. If they found him carrying her, they would kill them both. He glanced toward the ruins of an old subway entrance, dark, broken, but still standing. Without thinking further, Daniel moved quickly, his steps quiet but urgent. He carried the alien girl through the broken street and down into the shadows. The battlefield was silent again, but Daniel knew it would not stay that way. He had made a choice, a dangerous choice, and there was no turning back. In his arms, the alien girl breathed weakly, her hand clutching the fabric of his shirt, as if she already trusted him with her life. Daniel whispered to himself, voice low and heavy, "What have I done?" The answer would not come now. It would come later, when the silence of the battlefield was broken again, and when Daniel learned that saving her would change his life forever. The city behind Daniel lay in silence. But the silence was never safe. Smoke curled through the broken streets, and the sky glowed faint red from fires that had not yet died. In his arms, the alien girl was almost weightless, her body trembling with each breath. Her glowing skin gave off just enough light to make her look alive, but Daniel feared the glow could also give them away. He pressed her close to his chest, pulling the torn edge of his coat around her. He moved carefully, his boots soft on the cracked road, his eyes searching every shadow. The girl gave a soft sound, half a cry, half a whisper. Daniel looked down. Her eyes opened slightly, glowing faint blue in the darkness. She murmured words, in her language too weak for him to understand, and her small hand clutched at his shirt. She was holding on to him as if he was the only safe thing left in the world. Daniel swallowed hard. He had carried wounded humans before, but this was different. This was the enemy. Still, as he looked at her face, pale and frightened, he felt no hatred, only fear for her life and his own. The night stretched long and heavy. Somewhere in the distance, engines hummed, deep and strange, not of human design. Drones, searching, hunting. Daniel froze behind a broken wall, his heart pounding. He crouched, holding the girl tight, hardly daring to breathe. Red searchlights cut across the ruins, sweeping the streets like eyes of predators. For a moment, the light came close. The girl trembled in his arms, her glow pulsing brighter as fear took her. Daniel quickly pressed her against his chest, covering her with his body, whispering, "Quiet, please quiet." The lights passed. The drones moved on. Daniel waited, counting slowly until the hum faded into the distance. His legs burned from holding still, but he did not move until silence returned. Then slowly, he rose and carried her, again into the broken streets. Hours passed like this, moving, hiding, moving again. Daniel felt the weight of exhaustion dragging at his body, but he never let her go. Sometimes the girl's breathing slowed so much he feared she was gone, but then her chest would rise again, faint but steady. Her head rested against his shoulder, her glowing hair brushing his cheek. As the night deepened, Daniel searched for somewhere safe. He knew he could not keep moving forever. He needed shelter. He remembered the old subway tunnels, half collapsed when the aliens attacked. Maybe some parts still stood. If he could find an entrance, maybe they could rest there. The city was a maze of ruins, every corner a risk. He passed burned cars, bodies covered in dust, broken machines still sparking weakly. Once he stepped on shattered glass, and the sound echoed too loud in the silence. He froze, holding his breath, waiting for something to move. Nothing came. He went on. The girl stirred in his arms. Her lips moved again, whispering soft alien words. Daniel bent his head closer, trying to listen. It almost sounded like she was saying the same word again and again, her voice faint like wind. He could not understand it, but her tone carried meaning. She was afraid. She was begging him not to leave her. "I won't," Daniel whispered, surprising himself. His voice was rough, tired, but steady. "I won't leave you." The words seemed to calm her. She sighed, her hand still clutching his shirt, and closed her glowing eyes. Finally, near the edge of the city ruins, Daniel found what he was searching for, a dark stairwell, half buried under rubble. A cracked sign above it still read, "Subway." He pushed the stones aside with one hand, careful not to drop her. The entrance gaped open, black and deep. It was dangerous, but it was safer than staying in the open. He stepped down into the darkness, each stair echoing under his boots. The air was heavy, smelling of rust and dust, but it was quiet. Quiet meant safety for now. He laid the girl gently on a broken bench, his coat still around her. Her glow lit the tunnel faintly, soft blue against the cracked tiles. Daniel sat, beside her, his back to the cold wall. His arms ached, his body felt like lead, but he forced himself to stay awake. He listened to the distant hums above, the searchers moving through the night. Down here, in the shadows, they could not see her glow. Not yet. The girl opened her eyes once more. She looked at him, her gaze full of something he could not name. She whispered again, softer this time, the strange word he did not understand. Then slowly her hand reached out, trembling until her fingers touched his dot. Daniel stared at her. He should pull away. He should remind himself she was not human. But instead, he let her fingers rest against his hand. The contact was fragile, weak, but real. The night outside raged with danger, but in that silent tunnel, something began to change. Daniel realized he was no longer just carrying a stranger. He was carrying a life that depended on him. And for reasons he could not explain, he felt he would not let her go. The air in the subway tunnel was heavy, filled with the smell of rust, damp stone, and the faint electric buzz of old wires that no longer had power. Daniel sat against the wall, listening to every sound. The alien girl lay on the broken bench beside him, her glowing skin softly lighting the shadows. It was strange, almost peaceful, but he knew danger was close. The city above was not empty. Patrols still searched for survivors, and if they discovered her, they would kill her without mercy. Daniel looked at her face. She was breathing shallowly, her chest rising and falling slowly. Her eyes were closed, but her hand still gripped his coat, as if letting go would mean she was lost forever. He studied the glowing lines that ran across her skin, delicate like painted symbols. They pulsed gently as though her body was alive with hidden fire. She looked fragile, too fragile for this broken world. He rubbed his tired eyes, forcing himself to stay awake. He had not slept since the attack began, but he could not risk closing his eyes now. The girl needed him. He had chosen to carry her, and now her life was his responsibility. A sudden noise echoed through the tunnel, a faint drip of water, then the scuttle of something moving. Daniel gripped the metal rod at his side, his heart racing. He waited, breath held, until the noise faded. Just rats maybe, nothing more. He let out the breath slowly, his hand shaking. Turning back to the girl, he saw her stir. Her eyes opened, glowing softly in the dim light. She whispered something in her alien tongue, words he still could not understand. Her voice was weak, but there was meaning in it. Daniel leaned closer, listening carefully. She repeated the word from before, then another one, slower, almost as if she was trying to teach him. Daniel frowned, repeating the sound awkwardly. She blinked, her lips forming a faint smile despite her pain. She repeated the second word again, and Daniel tried once more. This time her eyes lit brighter, as if pleased. He realized then she was giving him her name. Liara, he said, softly, the word strange on his tongue. The girl gave a tiny nod, her glowing eyes watching him. Liara. Her name was Liara. For a moment, the tunnel felt less dark. Daniel searched through his small pack. He had only a few scraps of food left, dry, bread, half a can of beans. He broke a piece of bread and held it to her lips. She hesitated, weak, then slowly took it. Her glowing eyes softened as she chewed carefully, as though the simple act of eating gave her hope. He gave her a little water from his canteen, holding it steady so she could drink. She coughed, then whispered his name back in a broken voice. Her attempted human words, Daniel. The sound shook him. She had tried to say his name. He felt something stir inside him, something he had not felt since the world had fallen apart. Trust. Time passed slowly in the tunnel. Daniel used scraps of fabric from his coat to bind her wounds, cleaning them as best as he could. Her silver-colored blood stained the cloth, glowing faintly before fading. He worried she might not survive the night, but each time he thought she would slip away. She clung harder to his coat, refusing to let go. Above them, heavy footsteps echoed faintly through the ruins. Daniel froze, his hand gripping the metal rod tightly. He could hear voices, strange, mechanical, alien. Searchers. He crouched lower, pulling Liara close, her glow hidden under his coat. His heart thundered in his chest. If they found the tunnel, there would be no escape. The voices grew louder, then faded again as the searchers moved on. Daniel stayed still long after the sound disappeared. Only when silence returned did he let out a slow breath. Liara looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide with fear. He whispered, "Safe. We're safe. For now." She touched his hand again, her fingers trembling, but her expression full of something he could not name. Gratitude, perhaps, or trust. Hours dragged by, but Daniel knew they could not stay here forever. The tunnel was not truly safe. It was just a place to rest, a place to gather strength before moving again. But as he sat there in the darkness, watching the girl's breathing grow steadier, he felt a strange sense of calm. She was not like the stories, not like the soldiers had said. She was not a monster. She was just a girl, hurt and afraid. And she was depending on him. Daniel leaned back against the wall, exhaustion pulling at him. He kept his eyes half open, his hand resting near hers, ready to move if danger came. The night outside was full of death, but here in this secret shelter, a fragile bond was beginning. For the first time since the war began, Daniel wondered if there was more to this fight than hate and fear. And as Liara's faint glow lit the broken tiles around them, he knew this was only the beginning of something far greater than he could imagine. The silence in the subway tunnel had begun to feel almost safe, like the world above had forgotten them. Daniel sat against the wall, his eyes heavy but never fully closing. Liara lay close to him, wrapped in his coat, her faint glow casting soft light across the cracked tiles. For a short while, he believed the night might pass without danger. But safety in a broken city was always an illusion. The sound came first, distant heavy footsteps. Not human footsteps, not the quick shuffle of rats, but slow, deliberate, and sharp against the broken ground. Daniel stiffened, every nerve alive. His grip tightened on the metal rod. Liara's eyes opened instantly, wide and glowing with fear. She seemed to know the sound far better than he did. Her hand clutched his arm, trembling. Daniel leaned close, whispering, "Quiet," though his own voice was shaking. He pressed her glow against his chest, hiding it beneath his coat, but he knew it was not enough. Whoever was coming was not blind, and they were hunting. The footsteps grew closer, echoing down the tunnel. A faint humming filled the air, the low, steady thrum of alien tech. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew that sound. It was the sound of a weapon charging, steady and patient, like a predator breathing. A shadow appeared at the far end of the tunnel, tall and sharp, carrying a strange glow of its own. Daniel held his breath as the figure stepped into view. It was an alien soldier, armor cracked but still powerful, its body tall and unnaturally thin, its face hidden behind a mask of black metal. In its hands was a weapon that glowed with deadly, blue energy. The soldier moved with slow confidence, scanning the tunnel like a wolf sniffing out prey. Daniel's blood turned cold. He looked at Liara. She was shaking, her lips moving in a silent prayer of her people. She knew him, the soldier. He was not just a random hunter. He was searching for her. The soldier stopped, his masked head tilting slightly, listening. Daniel held his breath. Liara buried her face against his chest, her small body pressing close as if hiding in him could keep her safe. The soldier took another step forward, the glow of his weapon spilling across the tunnel walls. Daniel knew he could not fight him. The metal rod in his hand was nothing against alien armor and weapons. But if he did nothing, the soldier would find Liara. And then, it would be over. Daniel's mind raced. He thought of the broken stairwell they had used to enter. Maybe if he made enough noise there, the soldier would think survivors had escaped and follow. It was a desperate plan, but desperation was all he had. He set Liara gently down on the bench, his eyes meeting hers. She shook her head violently, whispering his name, begging him not to go. But Daniel only pressed a finger to his lips, a silent promise to return. Her glowing eyes filled with tears, but she did not stop him. Daniel crouched low, moving slowly, across the cracked tiles. Every step felt too loud, every breath too heavy. He picked up a broken pipe from the ground, its metal cold in his hands. At the edge of the stairwell, he lifted it high and slammed it against the wall. The crash echoed through the tunnel, sharp and loud, bouncing off the stone like thunder. The soldier spun instantly, his weapon flaring brighter. He strode toward the noise, his armor scraping against the walls, his mask glowing faintly in the dark. Daniel's heart pounded as he pressed himself into the shadows, silent now, watching. The soldier moved past the bench where Liara hid. For a moment Daniel thought the glow of her skin would betray her, but she clutched his coat around her tightly, hiding the light. The soldier walked on, drawn toward the noise. Daniel waited until the alien's back was turned, then darted out of the shadows, grabbing Liara in his arms once more. She gasped softly, but he held her close, whispering, "We have to move now." The soldier stopped. His head jerked back toward them. He had heard. Daniel ran, his boots slamming against the ground, the girl's glow flashing in the dark. Behind him, the tunnel filled with the roar of alien energy. A blast of blue light striking the wall just inches from his head. Stone shattered, sparks flew, and Daniel ran faster, his lungs burning, his arms tight around the fragile girl. The soldier's roar echoed down the tunnel, metallic and furious. Another blast of energy struck the floor, scorching the tiles, throwing up dust and smoke. Daniel stumbled but did not fall. He pushed through the broken stairwell, climbing with every ounce of strength he had left. Above them, the city was still broken, but it was wide and dark. He burst out into the ruins, the night air sharp in his lungs. Liara clung to him, whispering in terror, her voice broken and desperate. Behind them, the tunnel glowed with the hunter's light. He was coming. Daniel ducked into the ruins of a collapsed building, pressing himself against the stone, his chest heaving. He listened as the soldier's steps grew louder, climbing out of the subway. He could feel the rage in the heavy movements, the way the alien was hunting him now. Not just Liara. For the first time, Daniel understood. Saving her had made him the enemy too. He looked down at her, her glowing eyes filled with fear and something more, trust. She had placed her life in his hands, and now to protect her he would have to do more than carry her. He would have to fight. The hunter had arrived, and the battle between them was only beginning. The ruins outside the subway trembled with every step the alien soldier took. Daniel pressed his back against the cracked stone wall of a collapsed building, his breath sharp in his throat. Liara clung to him, her glowing eyes wide with fear, her small body trembling against his chest. The hunter's weapon hummed, a deep, steady sound that filled the night like the warning of a storm. Daniel knew he could not fight him. Not with a rusty rod, not with human strength. But if he kept running blindly, they would both be dead before dawn. He looked down at Liara, her pale skin glowing faint blue beneath his coat. She was weaker now, her breath shallow, her head heavy against his shoulder. "We can't keep this up," Daniel muttered, though the words were mostly for himself. "We need to know what he wants, what he's really after." As if hearing him, Liara stirred. She touched his shirt with trembling fingers and whispered something in her alien tongue. Daniel could not understand the words, but her eyes spoke for her. She wanted to tell him something important. They slipped deeper into the ruins, hiding behind broken walls and twisted steel beams until the sound of the soldier faded for a moment. Daniel set her gently down on a piece of stone, crouching beside her. Her glow flickered faintly in the shadows, weaker than before. She looked at him, lips trembling, then placed her hand against her stomach. At first, Daniel thought it was just pain, but the way she pressed her hand there, the way her eyes filled with meaning, told him otherwise. His breath caught. "No," he whispered, his heart hammering. She nodded slowly, her other hand clutching his sleeve, begging him to understand. She whispered again, this time slower, shaping the alien words carefully. Daniel leaned closer, catching pieces of sound. One word, then another. It was broken, but he began to see the meaning. She was carrying life inside her. Daniel pulled back, stunned. You're pregnant. Her glowing eyes softened, as if relieved he finally understood. She gave a small nod, her body shaking with the effort. She whispered again. And Daniel caught one more word clear enough to break him. Child. For a long moment, Daniel couldn't move. The war had destroyed cities, taken families, stolen futures. And here in his arms was not just an alien survivor, it was someone carrying a fragile life, a child that might not even live through the night if he failed. He felt the weight of his choice settle on him. Saving her wasn't just about her anymore. It was about what she carried. Liara reached for him again, her fingers brushing his wrist. She whispered his name, Dan, Il. And the way she said it made his chest ache. She wasn't asking for pity. She was begging him to protect the child she carried, a child she could not protect alone. Daniel swallowed hard. He had no idea how a human could be tied to this, how her people worked, how her bloodline carried life, but he could see the truth in her glowing eyes. This was no ordinary child. This was something rare, something hunted. And now, by carrying her, he had inherited that burden. He wanted to tell her he wasn't strong enough, that he was just a man with nothing left, not a hero, not a soldier, not even a leader. But when he looked at her, broken, glowing faintly, clutching her stomach like it was the last hope she had, he couldn't say it. Instead, he whispered, I'll protect you. Both of you. Her eyes shone, tears forming, though her lips curved in the faintest smile. It was fragile, but it was hope. The moment broke when a sharp crack split the night. Energy fire struck a nearby wall, the blast showering sparks and dust across them. Liara gasped, curling into herself. Daniel's instincts took over. He grabbed her and pulled her back into the shadows, heart racing. The hunter had found their trail again. But now Daniel wasn't running just to save himself. He was running for her. For the life inside her. He darted through the ruins, choosing paths that twisted and doubled back, using the city's broken skeleton as cover. The hunter's roars echoed behind them, furious and metallic. Energy blasts lit the night, striking walls and sending rubble crashing. Each time Daniel thought they were done, luck carried them a few steps further. Finally, deep inside the bones of a fallen skyscraper, Daniel stopped. The soldier's sounds had grown distant again, though he knew it was only temporary. He leaned against the wall, his chest heaving. Liara clutched tight against him. Her eyes were closed, her face pale, but she was still breathing. Daniel brushed dirt from her cheek, whispering, Stay with me, Liara. Don't give up now. Her eyes fluttered open at his voice. She whispered something too faint to hear, but her hand moved again to her stomach, her glow pulsing faintly beneath her fingers. Daniel understood. The secret she carried was the reason she was hunted. And now it was also the reason he could never let her go. In that moment, the war around him changed. He was no longer just another survivor trying to make it through the night. He was a protector of something new, something fragile, something worth more than his own life. And as the ruins echoed once again with the hunter's steps, Daniel's eyes hardened. He would not let them take her, not her, and not the child she carried. The skyscraper ruins gave them temporary cover, but Daniel knew the hunter was still close. The faint thrum of alien machinery carried through the night like a heartbeat of danger. Dust drifted through the cracked walls, glowing faintly in Liara's light. Daniel crouched low, his back against a slab of broken concrete, holding her close. She was weaker now, her glow flickering like a candle in the wind. He brushed her tangled hair from her face. Stay with me, he whispered, though his own voice shook. You're not allowed to give up. Liara's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him with that same mixture of fear and trust, then whispered his name again, broken but clear. Dan, Eel. Her hand moved to her stomach. The meaning struck him hard, as it had before. She wasn't just asking him to save her life. She was asking him to save two. The weight of it pressed against him like the ruins themselves. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He was just a man with no home, no family, nothing but the strength of his arms. But now, for her and for the fragile life inside her, he had to be more outside comma. The heavy steps of the hunter grew louder, closer. The metallic growl of the alien's weapon hummed through the ruins. Daniel tightened his grip on the rod he carried, though he knew it was useless. His chest burned with fear, but when he looked at Liara, her glowing eyes locked on his, he found something else. Resolve. He leaned close, his words low, steady, meant only for her. I promise you, I won't let them take you. I won't let them take your child. No matter what it costs me, I'll protect you. Her eyes filled with tears, shining like liquid light. She lifted a trembling hand to his cheek, her touch soft but carrying more weight than any oath. For a moment, the war around them faded. In that fragile, dark shelter, it was just the two of them, and the promise that bound them together. The moment shattered with a crash. A wall burst open under the force of an energy blast, rubble raining down around them. Daniel threw his body over Liara, shielding her as dust and stone filled the air. The hunter's silhouette appeared through the haze, tall and terrible, its mask glowing faint red. Daniel's heart pounded. He had seconds, maybe less. He grabbed Liara in his arms and ran deeper into the ruins, weaving through broken beams and shattered walls. The alien roared behind them, its weapon firing again. Blue light exploded against the floor, sending shards of stone cutting through the air. Daniel stumbled but didn't fall, clutching Liara tight. He burst through a narrow passage, half collapsed, leading down into the lower levels of the skyscraper. The space was dark, filled with water that dripped steadily from broken pipes. The air was damp, heavy, and reeked of mold. But it was cover. It was shadow. Daniel pressed himself against the wall, breathing hard. Liara clung to him, her glow, dimmed almost to nothing, hidden by his coat. He listened to the echoes above, the hunter moving, searching, tearing through rubble in fury. The sound of the weapon's hum grew faint, then stronger again as it stalked the floors. He knew they couldn't keep running forever. At some point, he would have to stand. He looked at Liara, her fragile body trembling, her eyes wide, but locked on his. She was depending on him, not just for herself. For the secret she carried. He whispered again, more for himself than for her. I won't break my promise. Liara's lips moved, forming a single alien word. Her voice was weak but steady, as if she wanted him to remember it. She repeated it softly, again and again, until Daniel copied the sound clumsily. Her eyes lit faintly with approval. He didn't know the word's meaning. Not exactly, but he could feel it. It was something like hope. Something like together. For the first time since the war began, Daniel felt the strength of purpose. He wasn't alone anymore. She had given him something worth protecting, something worth dying for if he had to. The hunter's steps drew closer again, echoing through the hollow ruins. Daniel tightened his hold on Liara, his jaw set. He didn't know how he would fight, or even if he could win. But the promise he had spoken in the dark was stronger than fear. Liara's faint glow flickered against his chest, like a heartbeat. He leaned down, whispering the alien word she had taught him, awkward but firm. Her eyes softened, her lips curving in a faint smile, even as tears traced her glowing skin. The night around them shook with danger, but in that quiet, hidden corner, Daniel felt unshakable. He had made a promise. And no matter what the hunter brought, no matter what the world took from him, he would keep it. The darkness pressed close, The ruins groaned under the weight of battle, and the hunter's shadow stretched across the broken stone. But Daniel did not run. Not now. He was ready to stand for her child, for the future he never thought he'd find. The ruins trembled as the hunter drew closer, its heavy steps shaking the broken ground. Daniel could hear the hum of its weapon, steady and sharp, echoing in the dark. Dust drifted down from the shattered ceiling, and Liara's faint glow pulsed against his chest like a fragile heartbeat. He held her tighter, his promise burning stronger than fear. There was no escape left, no more running. If he fled again, they would be hunted until both were gone. Tonight, it had to end. Daniel set Liara gently against the wall, his coat still wrapped around her. Her glowing eyes widened, shaking her head weakly, whispering his name. She clutched his hand as if to hold him in place. But he leaned close, pressing her trembling fingers to his lips. "You told me your secret," he whispered. "Now let me keep mine. I'm not leaving you. I'm just making sure you live." Her tears glowed as they slid down her face. She whispered something in her tongue, a word he had learned to recognize. It meant hope. She was giving it to him even now, even when she was so weak she could barely breathe. Daniel stood, gripping the metal rod he had carried since the beginning. It was nothing compared to alien steel, but it was all he had. He positioned himself between Liara and the direction of the sound. The hunter's shadow stretched long across the rubble as it entered the chamber, its mask glowing red in the darkness. The alien soldier raised its weapon, the hum turning into a sharp whine as power gathered. Daniel felt fear twist inside him, but he planted his feet. "You'll have to go through me first," he growled. The hunter tilted its head, almost mocking, then fired. Daniel dove aside, the blast slamming into stone, sparks showering the room. He rolled, sprang up, and swung the rod with all his strength. It struck the soldier's arm, a hollow clang that barely dented the armor but enough to jolt the weapon sideways. Another blast fired, missing Liara by inches, scorching the wall above her. Daniel's heart seized, but her faint glow told him she was still alive. The hunter roared, its voice metallic, filled with rage. It struck Daniel with the back of its weapon, throwing him across the chamber. Pain exploded in his ribs, but he pushed himself up again, refusing to stay down. He remembered his promise. He remembered the fragile life in Liara's care. He couldn't stop. The soldier advanced, raising its weapon again. Daniel staggered forward, grabbing a chunk of broken steel from the floor. As the alien fired, Daniel hurled the steel with desperate strength. It struck the weapon, knocking it sideways. The blast hit the ceiling instead, sending stone crashing down. The soldier stumbled, buried for a moment in falling rubble. Dust filled the chamber, blinding both of them. Daniel coughed, his body aching, and crawled toward Liara. He gathered her in his arms, shielding her from the debris. The dust settled, and silence followed. For a moment, Daniel thought it was over. But then the rubble shifted, and the soldier rose again, slower now, its armor cracked, sparks flickering across its chest. Daniel's body screamed with exhaustion, but Liara's weak hand touched his face. She whispered a single word, "Together." He understood. This fight wasn't his alone. Her glow brightened suddenly, faint but sharp, as if her body was calling on strength hidden deep within. The cracked lines on her skin pulsed, glowing brighter. The light spread, filling the chamber with soft blue fire. The soldier froze, raising its weapon, but too late. The glow from Liara surged outward, washing across the broken stone, striking the alien's mask. The soldier roared, blinded by the sudden burst of light. Daniel didn't hesitate. With all the strength left in him, he swung the rod at the crack in its chest. The blow landed with a sharp, sickening crunch. Sparks burst, the weapon fell, and the soldier collapsed in a heap of broken armor. The chamber went silent. Daniel's chest heaved, sweat and blood mixing on his skin. He looked at Liara, her glow fading back to soft, fragile light. She was trembling, her eyes closing, No, no, stay with me, he begged, holding her close. It's over, you're safe now, please don't give up. Her lips moved faintly, whispering his name. Then, in broken human words, she whispered, Father, child, yours. Daniel's breath caught. His mind raced, but his heart understood. She wasn't just carrying life. She was tying it to him. Somehow, some way, their lives had become one, their futures bound. He felt the weight of it, the responsibility, the impossible truth. He pressed his forehead to hers, whispering, Then I'll be more than a protector. I'll be the father. I'll raise your child, I swear it. Her tears glowed softly, her eyes closing with relief. Her breathing steadied, not strong, but alive. She had trusted him with everything, and he had accepted. The city above was still, broken, the war not yet over. But in that dark ruin, Daniel felt something new. Not just survival, not just fear. He felt the fragile spark of a future worth fighting for. He gathered Layara in his arms once more, her glow faint but steady. The hunter was gone, the chamber quiet. Beyond the ruins, the world waited. A dangerous world, yes, but one where promises mattered. Daniel walked into the night carrying her gently, knowing he carried more than just one life. He carried hope. He carried the future. And though he had never expected it, he was now the father of her child.